Do you think there should be exceptions for rape and incest, for example?
And I think that every state's going to look different. That's
What do
what's
you
different,
think?
Dana.
We continue to get more of these extreme ideological right-wingers on the record taking what should be suicidal positions when it comes to women's rights, reproductive health, and abortion. This is all coming in the wake of Arizona putting in force an 1864 abortion law that now is activated like yeast in a cooking recipe. It is active now because of the Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade, thanks to the 3 Supreme Court justices that Donald Trump got to nominate because Hillary Clinton lost to him in 2016. It's important to remember that arc. In comes South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, who says, no, there shouldn't be exceptions for rape. There shouldn't be exceptions for incest when it comes to abortion, because then you are adding a second tragedy to a first tragedy. This is not a position that the vast majority of this country agrees with. But Kristi Noem is sticking with it. Take a listen to this.
After what happened in Arizona when a civil rights era law came back and is now the law of the land there, the former president, Donald Trump, said that that state law goes too far. The law in your state is similar. It's an abortion ban, including areas where a woman is raped or in times of incest. So do you believe that the law in your state goes too far, just as he said about Arizona? Are you with him on that, or do you think that he's wrong?
You know, it's interesting because the law in my state was passed decades before I ever became governor. It was a trigger law that said when Roe v. Wade became overturned, that this would be the law that would go into place.
So let me pause it right here. This is all, but so she starts with, I had nothing to do with the law. It was a trigger law. Law was in place before. Roe v. Wade happened to be overturned during my governorship, but the law that was triggered in place had nothing to do with me. So first she's distancing, but then because now MAGA Trumpists always want to have it more ways, have it both ways. She then also says, well, yeah, but we don't want more tragedy.
So that may be a topic that will continue to be discussed in South Dakota. Our law today allows an exception to save the life of the mother, but the people in South Dakota will decide what their laws look like.
What do you think it should look like?
I can have an opinion, and I can weigh forward, and I can look at the science and what we've learned about babies in the womb, and to believe that we should protect life. But I think that our law today is what South Dakota wants, and they'll continue to have that debate, and I'll continue to follow through in my role, which is to make sure the will of the people is enforced.
Do you think there should be exceptions for rape and incest, for example?
And I think that every state's going to look different. That's what's different, Dana, is that I've constantly looked, and we rely in South Dakota on the fact that I'm pro-life, and we have a law that says that there is an exception for the life of the mother. And I just don't believe a tragedy should perpetuate another tragedy. I believe in taking care of mothers that are in a crisis situation, and that we...
Do you? And what about when you force them to birth their rapist child, and then you don't want larger child tax credits, and you don't want to provide government-funded pre-K? Up until what point do you want to take care of people?
Should be walking alongside them, giving them all the information and the best information they can make before they have to be put in a situation where an abortion is the only option that they have. So I'll continue to do that and love mothers and families through these situations, recognizing that they are often challenging and scary, and many times they're feeling very alone. And in South Dakota, I hope that that's never our story.
The question, of course, is whether the Republican Party, to the extent that Kristi Noem is a representative of that party, and there are people who disagree, does the Republican Party want to force women and girls to have their rapist's child, including when the rapist may be a family member? And what Kristi Noem is saying is yes, unless there is a question of the life of the mother's health, then the answer is yes, you should not have access to an abortion. Now, she'll couch it in flowery language, but we don't want women to feel alone. They shouldn't be alone. Okay, fine. They shouldn't be alone. Great. And it shouldn't ever get to the point where abortion is their only option. All right, it sounds great to me. It's better to have more options. That's what it means to be pro-choice. You have options, and abortion is one of those options. This is disgusting stuff. and every single one of them deserves to lose. I don't actually think Kristi Noem herself is on the ballot in November, although she may be. I don't keep up with South Carolina politics. I'm sorry, South Dakota politics, that is. But every single one of those who advocates for this and is on the ballot in November does deserve to lose, and we have to make it happen. It is time to start thinking like voters and to make sure that kids understand the importance of voting, how it works, registering, ballot initiatives, because so many kids just have no idea. That's why I wrote the new children's book, Think Like a Voter. I can think of no better time and no more important group of folks to try to reach. The book is now available at davidpakman.com/book, where, by the way, you can get the first 2 books in the series as well. Think Like a Detective and Think Like a Scientist. Really important stuff. Donate them to local libraries, classrooms, read them with the kids. davidpakman.com/book.